Oh, everybody. So nice to see you here today. And I am absolutely thrilled to have a conversation with the one and only Megan Aronson. Now, Megan and I met virtually. Actually, we've only ever seen each other on a screen like this through the Nonfiction Writers Conference that Stephanie Chandler, who's just amazing. We love you, Stephanie. Um, puts on every year, actually twice a year, right, Megan?
I think so.
Yeah. And so we both presented our pitches for these books that we're working on. And we were both chosen by an agent to submit a book proposal for these books. And Megan's book is called 47 Chances. And I want Megan to tell you guys about this book, why you wanted to write it, what it's about. Just give our audience a little glimpse into 47 Chances.
Well, thank you, first of all, for having me. I'm so happy to be chatting with you today. And yeah, 47 Chances is a memoir, true story. I lived a pretty extraordinary story with my husband. We met and fell in love under the red rocks of Sedona, Arizona. And then quickly after realizing we were soulmates, our fairy tale turned into a bit of a nightmare because he injured his back helping his grandmother with a home repair and started to descend slowly into opioid addiction. And that was kind of just the beginning of a series of tragic events in our lives. We lost everything in the recession. We faced 30 deaths in 8 years. We lost a baby in our home, and all while bringing 3 to the world and him slowly descending more and more into addiction. And so the story is really about all of that, and then finally me finding the courage to face his addiction and all of the crazy miracles that happened on the other side of that, because we got a happy ending.
So tell us don't spoil the entire book for everybody, but where was it at rock bottom and where are you guys now?
So it was about 10 years after we met that I finally found the courage to face his addiction. I had spent a few years coming out of the grief of losing all these people, studying a lot of personal development books, self-help, spiritual teachers, taught myself meditation after reading Eat, Pray, Love, like 5 billion other women on the planet. And that meditation had just really taught me how to trust myself again, trust my inner voice and my intuition. So I finally found strength to kick him out. And after that, I started filing for divorce because he threatened to kidnap our kids from school. He took all of our money. I found out about all these debts he'd been hiding, and really just thought, okay, I'm done, even after he entered rehab. And because, I'd had 10 years of failed interventions, and he was a timeshare salesman. So he would always sell me on he was going to get sober, and then it would just slide right back into same old, same old. So I started filing for divorce, and then a crazy thing happened. My divorce attorney fired me. Still don't know why to this day. Just kind of random. And I had this day where I looked up at the sky like, you must know something I don't. And just chose to believe for the best, even in the worst. And 55 days later, when we met in court, he was sober, and I realized he was my soulmate again. And it began a journey for me to find forgiveness and him to find patience. And everything we ever wanted came on the other side of forgiveness and 47 chances. As we got back together and we renewed our vows on a Red Rock Plateau and had another baby. And he is now 8 years sober, and we've been married for 15 years.
Ah, that is so amazing. What a beautiful love story, truly. And obviously, there's a lot of hard moments throughout those years. But to be where you guys are at now is just absolutely remarkable. And I want to talk a little, or have you talk a little bit about that forgiveness process. How do you view forgiveness? How do you explain it? Do you think it's like an everyday choice that we have to make? Is it a letting go? Is it a how do you view forgiveness?
For me, it was a little bit of all of those things. It was, I was so angry at him. I really didn't know how I could ever forgive him. But through everything that we went through, it felt like there was a power greater than us that was carrying us. And these miracles and magic were showing up, and moments that looked like they were going to destroy us actually turned into the moments that brought us back together. And so it was really just a matter of um, kind of turning it over to that power, whatever you want to call it in your life, whether you call it God or spirit or the universe or love. It was just making that I realized I didn't really have it in me to figure out how to forgive him. And so I kind of just turned it over to that higher power one day and said, I can't do this, you have to. And then it was also like that quote you always hear about holding on to anger is like, what is it, feeding somebody rat poison and hoping, and then you die or something like that. And I realized, I didn't go through all of this to then gift my kids an angry mother, a bitter mother, and so I had to dig deep and find that within myself. And I do think that forgiveness is something you have to do over and over and over. It's a walk. Even now, after 8 years of sobriety, there's still those triggers for me of, he does something that's similar to what he used to do as an addict. And, that comes up, and I still have to keep choosing him and choosing love. But I really saw him as a newborn person because he proved that, and I felt like the same higher power had kind of given us a miracle there.
And how do you, or how have you rebuilt trust with
So that
somebody
was,
that's, yeah,
yeah.
so significant in your life, in your house, the father of your children and your soulmate? What's that process like?
So while we were married, before I kicked him out and went through all of this, I had studied and had been teaching him the language of nonviolent communication, which is basically empathy and mirroring back to someone their feelings and needs that they're sharing with you. And so it was really crazy when he came out of rehab and we first started talking again. I could barely look at him in the beginning. And first it was just phone calls. And then it was he would come over to make dinner for the kids and leave. And we would just sit and talk then. And in all of those times, it was like, first of all, he was just so humble and patient. And he had a level of presence that he hadn't had in a decade, and was able to really sit with my pain and listen to me say, this is what you put me through, without taking it personally. Because he was able to separate out, and so was I eventually, that the real him would never have done those terrible things to me. That I hated addiction, not him. I hated what addiction had made him do. And so he just would listen to me and reflect back to me with this incredible presence of self. That must have been so hard for you. You must have felt like this. I'm so sorry I put you through that. And then he was just patient, and he would let me scream and cry and rage and run into my room, and he'd come and just find me and hold me. And after enough times of that, it started to rebuild that trust. And then there just kind of came a day where I heard Brene Brown's famous words, you can choose courage or you can choose comfort. You cannot have both. And I just realized I had that the courageous decision for me would be to forgive him and love him again.
Aw, I totally love that. And I also love Brene Brown and everything she has to say. And I also love the Eat, Pray, Love book. And that was very similar for me in my life. It was one of those books that I kind of leaned on during my really hard time and divorce and all of that. but I want to hear and let everybody else know what it is that you are up to now. I know that you have something called Rise Again. Tell us about Rise Again, what that is, what it means.
So I started this movement and it quickly grew on Twitter to over 20,000 people, where I just am really encouraging people after everything I've survived, because the addiction piece and what I went through, my husband is just one piece of the story. After we got back together, I went through postpartum depression and anxiety. I developed a rare seizure disorder. I was having up to 20 seizures a day. I ended up having to go through a brain retraining program where I essentially healed myself and changed my brain so I no longer have seizures. I had to go through therapy for all of the mental illness and recover from that. You know, it's just been one thing after another where I've had these rock bottom moments that I like to say, you know, you can turn any rock bottom moment into a launching pad, not a docking station. You can use those moments, make yourself the hero in your own hero's journey, romanticize the highs and the lows, honor the struggle, and embrace the pain to let it make you grow. And instead of becoming bitter, become better. And just use that to launch you into your dreams instead of pull you away from them. So rise again is just, we can always rise again from any rock bottom moment, from whether that's, you know, you've moved away from a place that you loved, or you're facing a cancer diagnosis, or you've had the loss of a loved one, or you're living through a pandemic, like we all are. You know, there's just moments even in everyday life where we're having to pick ourselves back up just to face another day. And you know, there's a kind of strength that you really have to call on inside of yourself in order to be able to do that. So I run around the country now putting my arms up and taking pictures and telling people we can rise again.
Yay, we can, and you have. And that is just amazing that you have been through so much in your young life, really. I mean, look at you. And you have chosen that path of rising again. And it really is a choice, and you can let those things tear you down and um you know, hold you captive, or you can, like you said, choose to rise again and become the better and better and best version of yourself throughout all that pain and throughout all those things that happen. So, this actually leads in perfectly to one of these questions that I like to ask everybody is, if you were to describe to people who the highest version of Megan is, the version of you that is free from the fear, from the sickness, from the betrayal, how would you describe the highest, brightest, best version of yourself?
You know, honestly, I feel like I've done a lot to get to where I am now, and I'm pretty proud of where I am at. I do have visions of things that I want to do ahead, but I've finally have reached this point, I think, through living through the pandemic, where I heard Glennon Doyle's words. She says, the point of life is not to feel happy, it's to feel everything. And, you know, I don't ever want to idolize something out there so much that I forget to be living right now. And it's still hard right now living in these crazy times, and it's incredibly challenging. And, you know, there's plenty more that I want to be doing, but I feel like I'm feeling everything. I'm feeling everything, and I'm honoring the struggle, and I'm letting those things break me open and not make me bitter, but just keep learning through everything that life is handing me, even though it's still a lot of hard stuff lately for all of us, you know. And if I had to picture something out there, I've always thought of Maya Angelou, who wrote into her 80s. And I would just love to be the kind of author that's like 85, sitting by a window in a little candlelight, and writing her 18th book, maybe, you know, and, you know, having a legacy of using words to touch other people. That would be a dream.
Ooh, and which you already do. And I have had the immense privilege of reading some of your book even before it's published. And it truly is amazing. And I feel like I know you even that much better from having this very intimate glimpse into your life and thoughts and feelings and journey. So it's truly amazing, your story, and I cannot wait until it's out there and people can read it for themselves. And if I know you speak and run programs and groups and things like that, let's say that something was going to happen to your vocal cords and this was like the last thing that you were going to be able to speak and to tell somebody. What's that one thing, thought, idea, concept that you feel is so important that that's like the last message that you want to leave with someone?
There's absolutely nothing that can truly break you. You can always make the choice to use that thing that's happened to you to make you better. And when you survive the absolute worst thing that's ever happened to you and you come out the other side and choose to let it break you open, to be more wholehearted, to be more compassionate, to be more full of life, when you let sorrow carve into you, you can contain even more joy within yourself on the other side. You can only find your strength and your beauty and the absolute depth of the furthest that you can go, the furthest reaches of what you can accomplish in life on the other side of challenges and hard times and obstacles. So don't shy away from them. Don't be afraid of facing your pain head on, because when you shine the light of your attention on your pain, there is an alchemy that happens inside you that changes everything. And you will find that you are never the same person on the other side in the best way possible, if that's how you choose to go through it.
Woo! Amen. Preach, sister, preach. That was inspired words, right? Those were inspired words. And thank you for sharing that. That yes, our pain right on the other side of that is beauty and purpose and life, and to lean into that pain and to be aware of it will make us better people and more able to have empathy and connect with others, which is so beautiful. And tell everybody how they can find you, to get your book when it's out, and just to connect with you further.
So you could go to meganaronson.com, and my last name's Aronson, kind of spelled a little weird. And I'm also on Twitter at Megan Aronson, and on Instagram as well at Megan Aronson 777 lucky sevens. Because hey, we got to keep the luck and magic and miracles in our lives, right?
Oh my gosh, that is awesome. 777. Actually, my daughter's volleyball number is 7 on her jersey. So
Really?
hey, I'm all about sevens. Yes. Well, thank you so much, Megan, for just sharing with us today. But also, just instead of letting all those hard things define you in a negative light, you have really allowed them to break you open and to impact other people, and being vulnerable, talking about hard things, showing up authentically. All of that is just such a blessing to the world. So I just thank you for being you. And I love our connection, and we're going to keep chatting and bonding and establishing that more. But just thank you for being the beautiful soul that you are.
Right back at you. It's so fun to have a conversation with you, because you just make it so easy to just keep it real and authentic and have our hearts wide open and let the world see in them. So thank you.
Yay. Bye, everybody.